Hey everybody, it is our second set of notes while we are in our e-learning. Now, if you haven't seen that, that is a clip from Mrs. Doubtfire, one of the funniest movies ever with Robin Williams. If you haven't seen it, it's awesome. But I wanted to start with something kind of fun because what we're talking about today are dot plots. Now, dot plots, you probably have done this before, so I'm hoping today is relatively easy. And I kind of start nice and slow as we get into it. But a dot plot is a form of what is called a visual representation of data. Now, visual representation, if we kind of break down those words here, we know that, pen here, visual just means it's something we see, and a representation just means something that is a display. So it shows what's going on. So a visual representation of data is just a graph that shows what's going on. Now, we've already done two of these, and we haven't really talked about visual representations. So the first one we talked about was a dot plot, or scatter plot, sorry. We'll get to dot plot. Is a scatter plot. And we did this a while ago. We typed in our data in a table. We did all the things. And so a scatter plot, we saw patterns. We looked at ice cream. We did all those kind of fun things. The second one we talked about was a histogram, and we looked at that Monday again. Now, a histogram, if you remember, it looks like a bar graph, but it's where all of the bars are touching. We have specific ranges and all of that. So that is a histogram. Now, there are two more, and we're going to get to all of those by the time e-learning is done. We're going to look at this one called a dot plot today, and so we'll define that. And the last one we're going to look at is this thing called, let me move my face, is called a box and whisker. Let's move my face out. And we'll get to this one towards the end, or even when we get back. So let's take a look at what is a dot plot. So a dot plot is a representation of data. So we just saw it's a visual representation using vertical dots, and each dot typically represents one value. So let me show you an example so that way you know what I'm talking about. So here I have a dot plot, and let's change colors. So I have a dot plot, and we are polling a class of students. Now this class, what we are saying are the number of brothers and sisters. And so each dot here represents one person slash response. So when we see two dots over the zero, that means two people have zero siblings. That means that they're an only child. If I were to look at this, which one had the most responses, and that would be two. I can see that a lot of my students have two siblings. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people that had two siblings. And we can kind of go from there. So really when we're looking at a dot plot, it's easy to find the mode. Now, if you remember, mode means the most. So what happens the most? And it's really easy to see because it's the tallest one. So whichever one is the tallest, that's your mode. So it's really nice to see from a dot plot. So what we're going to do is we're going to do some analyzing of a dot plot. So I'm going to give you a dot plot. We'll look at some stuff about it. And then we're going to make one. Now your assignment for today is an edge elastic in which you're going to do a little bit of everything. So make sure you're following me here. If you want to jot some notes down, you can. But let's take a look at this. So the dot plot below represents the number of minutes it takes for a group of students to eat breakfast. Okay, so we've got our data, and so this represents minutes. So above zero, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people who spend no time eating breakfast. So we're just going to assume they don't eat breakfast at all. And then all the way over here, I've got one person who took 12 minutes. So let's answer the question. So what is the range of answers? Now, if you remember range, we talked about this on Monday. Range is the maximum minus the min. So the largest minus the smallest. Now, you could try and type all this stuff into Desmos and then do the formula, but that's harder than we need it to be. All I have to do here is look at my dot plot and say, okay, there's my max. The most it took somebody was 12. So that's 12 minus my minimum is 0. There's my min. So minus 0. So my range of answers here are 12. That's it. It's just 12. So the biggest minus the smallest, not too bad. So the next one, what is the mode? And I referenced this on the last slide. So what is happening the most? Now from a dot plot, all you got to do is find the tallest one. And it looks like this one is the tallest. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people. Took 10 minutes. Let's check this one. It looks kind of close. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I know the mode here is 10 because it happens the most. I have 7 people with that response. Now the last question, how many people are part of the survey? Now this one sounds kind of weird, but we can figure it out from the data. So if you remember that each one of these dots represents one person. So all I have to do is count how many dots there are. So how many people are participating? So let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, and 40. So there are 40 people who participated in the survey, and I know that because there's 40 dots. So getting information from a dot plot isn't that bad. It's really just counting how many numbers are in each column. So you've probably seen this before, so hopefully it's not too bad, but we're going to apply it to the range and the mode. And then later, we're going to look at finding the mean and the median. So we'll get to that later. So besides analyzing, the other thing we're going to have you do is make a dot plot. Now you can actually make these on Edgelastic, so that's what we're going to have you do today. But we're going to do one together. And if you'd like, I would jot this down. Let me scoot my picture out of the way a little bit. Let's go right there. So we're going to make a dot plot and kind of see how this goes. So the data below lists the number of days a class of students exercise each week. Create a dot plot to represent the data. Okay, so I've got a mess of data here, a whole bunch. Let's start with so let's go green. So the first thing we want to do is we want to label our line. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, when you're doing a dot plot, I'm not going to spread line all the way out because don't want to write on my head. We want to number these 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm numbering them 0 to 7. Now, you could be wondering, Mr. Heading, why are you going from 0 to 7? That is a great question. So when I'm looking at my set of data, what's the smallest number I see? Well, I see this. This is my smallest. Remember, that's our min. Then we look at our largest. What's our maximum? And that's right here. What's our max? And so what we do is we go from our min to our max, and typically we're going to count by whole numbers. Typically 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't have to count by ones. If there weren't any ones, you could count by twos. You could count by threes. It really just depends on what you're doing. But for this case, we're going to count by ones. Now on Edgelastic, we're going to have the lines already set up for you, so you don't have to worry about the counting part. Now that I've got it all set up, let's see, I'm going to switch to a highlight. I don't want to highlight. Switch to, let's see, I don't want, none of these are going to help. Let's just switch to colors. Let's go red. So now that I've got my line all set up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and do kind of like we did for the frequency table. Is I'm going to mark off the number and put a dot. Now you want to try your best to get them as vertical as possible. Now if they're a little wobbly, that's okay. Just try your best. So let's start from the beginning. So 3. So that means one person worked out 3 days that week. So I'm just going to put a dot over 3. I've got 2. So I'll put a dot over 2. 7. Let's put a dot over 7. 0. Dot over 0. 1. And then we just keep going. So we're just going to pause, keep going. Now here's what I'd like you to do. I want you to pause the video and I want you to finish the dot plot. Now I know you can just keep going, but I'd like you to pause it, try it and then check your answer with mine here in just a second. Let's see how you did. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to keep going. So I have my 5, 6, 7, 4. So I'm just going to keep going. While I'm doing this, I'll tell you how my break's been. My break's been pretty good. Trying to keep myself busy, but I'm going a little crazy. Not leaving the house. Been exercising a lot. Decided to buy Minecraft just because I thought it was kind of fun. Kill some time with that. Go lots of walks. My daughter likes to go for walks outside, but we keep our distance, social distancing. And there we go. So we finished our dot plot. So I went through and I had all of my things. Now, again, a way you can check it is to make sure that you've counted them all and make sure that your dots match up. Now, by looking at this picture, I can see that my class of students typically works out between 0 to 3 days a week. They work out. I've got a couple people who are diehards. They're working out 4 to 7, but it looks like I've only got, let's see, that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people who work out between 4 and 7 days a week. Those are your real diehards. But for the most part, it looks like this class is relatively healthy. We've got some 2s and 3s. That's not bad. So we've got our dot plot. And that's it. That's how we make one. We cross it out. Now we're going to do some more analysis with this as we go, but today it's really kind of just basic. And you look at dot plot, get the mode, get the range, and make one. So your assignment for today is on the Edge Elastic. So it's dot plot assignment 1. It is already open and it is due tonight. It is April 1st. Oh my goodness, this is not an April Fool's joke, but it is due tonight. It's about 8 questions, so it shouldn't take you too long. Again, if you need help, feel free to reach out to us. See you guys. Bye.